We're going to go over some real life examples tonight. So if you have a paper and pencil, have that handy and with you so that you can kind of follow along with us. And then we'll go through a little exercise. And after we go through that, it'll give you the tools to be able to set a budget for yourself and for your own household income. So, all right. I'm going to share a presentation here. That didn't work. Is this sharing my screen? Where's my button to do it? Present. Did that not work? Oh, I thought I had it down. Let's see. So from
on
Zoom.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, and I just have to hit share.
Yep.
All right. How did I do that now? Present. All right. Now we're good. Everybody can see that. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first thing, this is really designed for young adults and talking about real world income and expenses. So the differences between living on your own, paying your own bills versus, living with a friend or splitting bills, living with your parents and maybe not having any bills to pay, and taking into consideration all of your options too, your internet and your cell phone and groceries and entertainment, all of that kind of stuff that you can budget for. So the first thing that we're going to go through is just kind of asking you how you spend your money. So if any of you would like to chime in here, feel free to. I'll give you a couple of seconds here to chime in and tell us where you think you spend the most money. Nothing yet?
I can provide my own answers.
Yes, please do.
So I personally, I have a mortgage and a car payment. I find that a lot of my money goes towards that, but I have other expenses too.
Mm-hmm. I would say a lot of mine are Starbucks or eating out or, on top of bills, but those all add up quickly as well. So
Mine would be mortgage and car payment and groceries. So
absolutely. All right. Do you want to take this one?
Sure. So most of you are probably familiar with income and a budget, but income is the amount of money earned from wages or other sources. So this is, what you make at work or some odd jobs that you might do that you get paid for. A budget is a plan to cover the expenses with available income. So, with that, you'll have your income and your income falls within your budget, and you'll kind of go about that with the expenses to come up with how much you have left over. And hopefully that number is positive.
Absolutely. So the next thing that we kind of talk about is opportunity cost. So, buying everything that you want to buy, like Starbucks or eating out or going to a concert, those kind of things, it can make it hard for us to pay our bills. So a budget helps us to stay on track with our spending. And so if you think about it, typically every month you're going to earn a certain amount of money or a certain amount of income. And in order to have a balanced budget and have enough money to pay for your bills, as well as pay for, fun things, you need to spend less than you earn. So having a balanced budget basically means that you're going to have to make choices on what you purchase and have to consider what the opportunity cost is of what you buy. So does anybody know or want to chime in about what they think opportunity cost is?
Is that the choices that you have between you could spend it on this, or you could spend it on that. And so when you spend it on one thing, you're not able to do the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, like what you have to give up in order to get something else. So great.
Sure. So looking at this pay stub, we can see that the annual gross income's just about $36,000. And then the net income after taxes are taken out and healthcare, it ends up being about $29,500. So you divided by 12, your monthly take home pay is just about $2,500. And with that, that's ultimately your income. So this is the average income in the US. And it's kind of an interesting note because moving forward, we'll continue to see these numbers and how they come into play.
Yep. So if you have your paper and pen with you, go ahead and write down that number, $2,463. So that's what we're going to say your monthly take home pay is. Another thing that I want to point out too is, you know, you get a job offer and they say your annual salary is $40,000. That does not mean that you are taking home and you have $40,000 to spend, because you have income taxes to pay. You might have health care to pay. You might have a 401k to contribute to. So when you look at those numbers, it's quite a bit different what you actually bring home versus what your gross income is. All right. So if you were here in class, we would actually have these handouts for you to kind of help us walk through this scenario on our monthly budget. So we're going to go through each one of these things. Your income, which we already acknowledged, was $2,463. We're just going to go basic with that dollar amount and kind of go from there. But we're going to look at each one of these other items. So transportation, entertainment, miscellaneous expense, household expense, food, and spending money on looking good. So getting a haircut or taking care of those kind of things. So then we're going to take into account what your income is, subtract all of those items on what we decide, and figure out whether or not you have any money left over.
So we'll begin with housing options. Housing options should, kind of a guideline is 25 to 30% of your income. You definitely don't want to be spending everything you have just to be living somewhere. So the three options that were provided for this presentation were living at home, which would be $250 a month. A 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate is $650 a month, or a studio apartment living alone, which is $1,000 a month. So kind of based on that income, you're going to want to choose what would best fall under this category. And, you know, it's reasonable to probably be doing the 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate or to be living at home. Just if you were spending $1,000 a month at that studio apartment, then that's a little out of your probably price range considering your take home pay every month.
So just for number purposes, 28% of your monthly income, the $2,463, is $690. So that's that's pretty close to the max that you want to pay to balance your budget, that 25 to 30%. So let's write down that middle option for housing. We'll write down that we are paying $650 a month for rent. All right. If anybody has any questions, please just jump in and ask them as we move through these next items. The next option that we're going to go over is the household items, the household expenses. So you don't want to spend more than 5% of your income on the household expenses. So this is going to go over each one of those things. And so we're going to go along with the 2-bedroom apartment with our roommate. But if you look at your essentials, like your gas, electric, trash, water, that kind of thing, if you were living on your own, it would be $100. But if you live with a roommate, it might be a little bit more expensive. but it's going to be divided two ways. So it would only be $75. Or if you're living at home, it would be zero. So you could stick all that money away and wouldn't have to worry about that. Same thing with cable. If you're on your own, that bill's going to be $80 for you. You're the only one responsible for it. If you have a roommate, you can split it 50%. So you're only paying $40. If you live at home with your parents, then you probably don't have to pay for it. The next one is internet options. Same thing. If you're on your own, you're going to pay $40 a month. If you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment with your roommate, it'll be $20. If you're living at home, most likely you're not going to have to pay for that out of your own pocket. And then the last bit here is cell phone options. So talk, text, and 3 gigabytes of data would cost you $65 a month. If you reduce that and, maybe just stayed connected to Wi-Fi and didn't have to use any data, then you could do just the talk and text plan for only $40 a month. So on this one, we're going to write down these different options and kind of figure out how that plays into our budget. So for utilities, we're going to pay $75 a month. We're using that rent with a roommate as our example tonight. So we've got $75 for utilities. We've got $40 for cable. We've got $20 for internet. And what do we want to do for the cell phone? Does anybody have a care each way?
I think the argument could be made that people are using data more and more, so
Absolutely.
I would go with that.
Let's go with the $65 option so that they have some data. Okay. So if we add up all of those items, we've got $650, $75, $40, $20, and $65. So for our household total, we have $850 so far.
So moving on to transportation options, this should be, again, this is just a general kind of guideline. 15% of income should be spent here. And that's, I would say, I mean, if you're spending, again, more than 15, 20%, then you're probably going to start getting in trouble with some overusing and overspending your budget. So the options here are public transportation, which is $150 monthly, a used car, which is $175 a month for a car payment, insurance for $50, gas for $100, and maintenance for $50, or a new car, which is $270 for monthly. Insurance is $70, gas is $100, and maintenance is $25. So one of those options or two of those options might make more sense just based on that income, again, that we are using as tonight's example.
So 15% of our income, the $2,463, is $369. So that option 1 is $150. That option 2 pans out to be $375 a month. And that option 3 with the new car turns out to be $470 a month. So it's going to be quite a bit more than that 369, which would be the 15% of our income. So let's go with our second option. We're going to buy a used car, have a monthly payment of $175, monthly insurance of $50, spend about $100 in gas and about $50 a month for maintenance. So let's mark down $375 for transportation. All right. The next one that we're going to go over is food options. So again, we want to budget about 15% of your income for food expenses. So you've got obviously lots of different options for this. You can strictly go to the grocery store, make your own meals, and it will cost you for this example, $200 a month. If you do a combination of groceries and eating out, it would cost roughly $350 a month. If you strictly do not cook at home and like to eat all of your meals out, it would cost approximately $525 a month. So again, 15% of your income would be $369. So you want to kind of stick around that same dollar amount. So we could grocery shop and save a little bit of money there. But on this example, let's go ahead and say that we're going to do a little bit of making our own food, but we're still going to eat out a little bit. So just be a little bit more conservative about that. So let's, for food, let's write down 150 for groceries and 200 for eating out. So the total there would be $350 for food, which would still keep us within that 15% of our income.
The next category is over entertainment options. And again, the guideline for this would be 5 to 10% of your monthly income. So I know personally, I kind of struggle with this one. I like to, go out and do things. So I guess the pandemic's kind of helped us in that sense. But this one, you have a few options. You have sports game for $60, a concert for $60, movie and theater for $15. Movie download for $7, date night for $100, travel for $100, or hobbies for $100. So definitely lots of options. And again, you're only going to want to use 5 to 10% of that income, which amounts to.
Well, 8% would be roughly $197. So around $200 is what you've got to keep you within that 5 to 10% that income, or that 5 to 10% of your income there. So does anybody want to choose a couple of items that they want to use for this example?
I think right now a movie download is very appropriate for the situation currently with the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And then maybe a sports game, because you can also pay for those to watch online as well.
Perfect. So movie downloads are $7 a piece. So let's do a movie download. We'll do one of those, and then let's do a sports game. You might be able to watch a boxing match or some other games online as well. So we'll budget about $67 for entertainment. Okay. So your next item here is your looking good options. So taking care of your grooming and your appearance. So roughly 5% of your income would equate to about $123 of your take-home pay, which was the $24.63. So when we're looking at that, let's say that you need to have a new outfit for an interview. And so you need a new shirt, which is $25, and you need a new pair of pants, which is $25. And maybe you need, because we all know that we've neglected that over that during the pandemic too. So, let's say that we need a new shirt and pants, and then we also need a haircut and maybe beard trim or something along those lines. So let's add those in. We'll do $50 for shoes and clothes, and we'll do $30 for a haircut. So we're going to spend an extra $80 for taking care of ourselves and looking good. So another item that we haven't really talked about yet is paying yourself first. So chat in the box or comment if you'd like, but how many of you, when you get your paycheck, you pay yourself first, which means you put a certain dollar amount in your savings account, or you take out cash and stick that aside for a rainy day, something along those lines? So typically, as a budget guideline, you should stick away about 10% of your take-home pay, which in that case would be about $246. That's how much you would want to stick away in savings with this budgeting tool. So we're going to say that we're going to put $246 in our savings. So having that money in our savings every month and putting that money in there helps us set aside for unexpected emergencies or unforeseen costs. So if something were to come up where your hot water heater goes out in your house and you have to replace it, or you get in a car accident and you have to repair your car and you have doctor's bills, or maybe you get sick and you have to have a short hospital stay, having that savings set aside can help you take care of those types of expenses that come up unexpectedly. Okay. Do you want me to keep going?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So this is kind of how your whole recommended budget is put together. So kind of going back through everything, about 30% of your income for housing, 15% for food, 15% for your transportation, 10% for entertainment or other miscellaneous items, 10% into your savings, 5% for utilities, 5% for clothing, 5% for healthcare, and 5% of debt payments. We didn't really talk a whole lot about those two because we're trying to make this example pretty simple for you tonight. But those are other things that you need to take into consideration. If you have health insurance that you have to pay for, maybe your employer doesn't offer health insurance. So you need to think about how much that might cost you out of pocket as well. Or if it's deducted from your paycheck, that kind of thing too. And then that also takes into consideration, healthcare visits as well. So now what we are going to do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is add up all these totals and figure out whether or not we have money left over. So for household, I had $850 total dollars. That was $650 for our rent payment, $75 for utilities, $40 for our cable, $20 for internet, $65 for cell phone. So that all added up to $850. Then the next category for food, we decided that we were going to buy groceries, but we were also going to eat out occasionally. So we're going to add $350 to that $850. Then our transportation cost, we decided that we are going to buy a used car. So the expense on that is about $375 a month. So go ahead and add that in there as well. Then the entertainment, which is 5 to 10% of your income, we decided that we are going to download a movie for $7. And then we're also going to rent a game or something, a sports game, or go to a game or something for $60. So we're going to budget $67 for that. Then we have $246 going into our savings account. So go ahead and add that up too. And then after that, we are going to do 5% for taking care of ourselves or looking good. So we had $50 for a new pair of pants and a new top, and $30 for a haircut. So we're going to add $80 to that as well. So if you remember, our total income was $2,463. And then once I added up all of our expenses, it came to $1,968. So if you subtract those two, you do have some money left over, $495. Did you all come up with the same dollar amount? How do I unshare? Oh, stop share.
So I guess, my question to you, Tara, is with all that leftover money, what would you suggest doing with it?
I think there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. Typically households have other bills or debts to pay. So if you have a credit card, some of that might go to a credit card, or maybe you have childcare. Think about the other things. If you're just an individual, this might be an okay budget for you. But what if you happen to add a child to that and you now have daycare and diapers and formula? Or what if you get married and you have a spouse and they don't have income, and now we have extra food and utilities and those kind of things that come up. So taking all of that into consideration is good, but always sticking money into your savings account and paying yourself first and saving for those rainy day expenses or those unexpected expenses is always a good idea.
I think that, I guess one of the big takeaways from this presentation is budgeting is challenging. And I think that most people have, something they want to spend their money on. We talked about that from the get-go. But I guess ultimately what I'm trying to get at is if you are able to budget, it's not going to be the same as somebody else's. So we went through this presentation and we just kind of used a generic example because it's kind of upon yourself to go and do it, because your numbers are obviously going to be different than, Tara and I are not going to have the same numbers.
Absolutely.
Tara has a family and I'm in a relationship, but it's not the same situation. So everybody's situation is different and everybody's budget's going to be different. So there's no, right and wrong way to do it, but it's a definitely a good way to go about it, just to make sure you aren't overspending or getting everything taken care of the way you need to.
Absolutely. Do we have any questions for the rest of the night?
I would say that the wrong way is if you're not agreeing with your spouse.
Agreed. That can be challenging. That's a good thing to sit down, especially when you have young couples who are just starting off and sharing expenses. It's always a good thing to sit down and kind of pencil through your budget together and figure out what your expenses are. It's not a bad idea to kind of update that information every couple of months too. Just make sure that you're on the same page, because you might have gotten rid of some bills, or some bills might have gone up, or if you're in a situation where you pay off your mortgage, or something along those lines. But it's always good to keep this like a working document so that it can help you budget continuously and help you build your savings. So
that's a great point. Budgets do change too. I mean, it's not an end all be all when you build your budget.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and we hope you got something out of this. We hope that if you're catching this on the replay, that you found this useful as well.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, once again, thank you everyone for joining. Next month's subject in the series will actually be health insurance, and that will kick off on Tuesday, March 2nd at 5 o'clock. So we hope to see you there. But if you do have any more questions, feel free to ask those before we close out today.
Do you have a budget program that you would recommend?
That's a good question. There's all kinds of tools out there. If you just go out to the Google budgeting tools, there's all kinds of things out there. I definitely wouldn't recommend necessarily paying for anything, because there's lots of ways that you could just do that with a piece of paper and a pencil too. I know there's all sorts of apps and tools that are available. So I would definitely look into it, but if it's something that costs something, you want to make sure that that's in your budget too.
One app that I've used in the past, and I would recommend if you're looking for a tool, is Mint, and you can sync up your bank accounts to that as well as your credit cards. So that way you kind of see what's coming in, what's going out, and you can also check your credit score. Again, I did the credit presentation earlier this month, and I can tell you that those aren't always the most reliable representation of your credit score, but it's kind of a nice little guide, I guess, to kind of follow it that way.
What was the name of that one?
It's called Mint, MINT.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next week.